And I will say, I mean, I have to brag about you for a minute because when I was looking for my first home, I didn't really know where to go, but my friend had just bought a house. She said, I have the best real estate agent for you. I'm on the West Side. So I was like, does he know the West Side or just the East Side? She's like, I think he knows everything. She literally said, everything. I think he knows everything.
Literally everything.
He's Google.
So, yeah. She was like, she couldn't say enough about Frank. And I was a little concerned because I'm a single woman. My parents had just moved to Albuquerque. I'm like, why am I thinking of getting into this venture right now? Like, how do I know if I pick the right home? How do I know if I'm making a good investment? I was really scared. And I have to say, Frank, like, came in, I told him exactly the lay of the land. I don't know what I'm doing. My parents aren't here to help me, and I'm feeling a little scared about it. And he said, well, just look, if you find something great, if you don't, that's fine. And he said, I'm going to pretend you're my daughter, and I'll tell you if, I would let her live there or if I think it's a good call. And he came through with the promise, man. He really made sure I felt like family. He was like, the neighborhood I'm in is a little loud, and I was a little iffy. And he was like, it's safe. I don't think it's like quiet neighborhood, but it's safe, and I would let my daughter live here. And I was like, done. And I feel like it's been a good investment. I just started talking with Frank last week about, I think next year, if the market stays pretty good in a good spot, I might sell and buy my glow up home. So there you have it.
We did very well. And that's one of the things that I think we were a little bit different in regards to our real estate firm, is that a lot of other individuals in this industry look at it as just transactional, and to us it's very relationship based, and it's all about the relationship.
Well, that's amazing. I think we should take a hard right turn here, because we've had a lot of guests on the show that are personal branding experts, but you basically succeeded in Crystal feeling like you were the master at everything. You knew everything. So we're going to actually have the whole podcast episode be about that. So if you just need to help us see the formula for helping your customers feel like you're everything. But I do think you're already starting to unveil the secret. So maybe I do want to come back, because I think this concept of relationship is key, and I have a hunch it's going to be part of your COVID adaptation strategy. But I would love to, maybe as we kick off, I'd love to get the perspective from you about sort of what happened. And you can take us to the dark moments too, as you heard about COVID and you imagine what the impact would be in your business. Take us down the journey of what that felt like early, with the early news, and maybe kind of some of your instinctive initial reactions.
Well, one of the things about the real estate market here in the Phoenix metro area, if you've been doing it long enough, you know that it's all about pivoting, and you're going to have to adapt at some point. We've been where, the highs of the highs, the lows of the lows, where we've had foreclosures where we had to deal with. So, had REOs, so different types of markets. But, I think this one was a little bit unique because it didn't, when it first came on, it was going to affect everybody. Like it didn't have a certain sector that was going to affect. And one of the things about real estate is there's so many variable factors involved that play into the transaction. You got the market factors, you got the supply and demand factor, you got the human factor, then you got the interest rate factor, and then you got the perception of, hey, is this a market strong? Am I going to am I making a wise decision? And one of the things that I think make the COVID so real and where as far as the real estate market was concerned and the real estate consumer was concerned, that it made it very real, because as far as the real estate consumers go, recession is a bad word, and the majority of homeowners now had a hard time, a very difficult time with the last recession. So anytime when the recession word comes up, and then you put a global pandemic and you see the stock market losing 12 to 1,800 points per day,
just a couple little cherries on top. Yeah. Yeah.
It causes immediate panic and a huge concern, and then throw in a quarantine. Throwing a quarantine on top of that, and it's just like, whoa, so initially it was, one of the things you have to do is just control everything that you can, take every news information that you have with a grain of salt and verify it. One of the things that we were trying to get a grasp on is what the economy was going to be like in Arizona, and what the unemployment rate was actually going to be like, because that was going to have a huge effect on the consumer consumer sentiment, consumer confidence.
I wanted to, before we just jump full blown in the way Scott did here, I wanted to talk a little bit about your growth before we had coronavirus. Like, what were you experiencing in your business right before it hit, and kind of share some of your goals you might have had?
Well, one of the things with our group is the way we're kind of structured is we have a blog. It's called Gilbert Now, and over our Facebook and our Instagram platform, we have about 50,000 followers. And kind of the way of our blog starts, it's all about community first. It's never about us. It's always about the community. We're able to drive a ton of traffic and a ton of interested buyers, sellers through our blog. So, year on year, our blog is finally starting to really gain some momentum now. And year over year, we've had a lot of success with our blog. So, with that being said, is we're getting some momentum, and we're getting a lot of traction. One of the things in the Arizona market, as a real estate agent, if you're able to sell approximately about $10 million in a year, you're considered the top 1%. Year over year, we've been exceeding those goals and then some by about a 50 to 60% margin. We sell about 100 homes a year. And when you hire us, you're not passed along the way. So, as our business was starting to, we're picking up steam and we're starting to get all of our systems in place and things going. And then, like I had mentioned, how I alluded to it earlier, is one thing about the real estate market and the Phoenix market is you're always going to have to reinvent yourself, because there's always new something coming around the corner. If you've been doing this long enough, you know that, hey, you're never gonna be settled. For the fact is that the market's going to change, and one of the things that when it changes here in the Phoenix market, in our experience, it changes fast. It's not a gradual change. It changes pretty fast, but it was nothing as fast as with what the COVID did. It was literally pump the brakes and really, really reevaluate how you're doing business.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you've been through there's a general sense of change in your market. So your kind of default stance is, I need to always be innovating and thinking and improving and adapting. And you also have sort of the history of we've been through recessions before. We've seen the impact. So we don't, maybe we're not going to die. And I also love the fact that you mentioned earlier, look, we're going to control what we can. I think maybe both of those two facts maybe lead you to the place where you say, you know what, I really can only control what I can. So I guess my first sort of direct and honest, or not my first, this is my first honest question ever on this podcast.
Oh, Lord.
But a direct question, this one's actually dishonest, is did you have a moment of fear? Did you have a moment where it was like, oh crap, this is bigger than the rest? Or do you feel like you're in a place where it was, we got this?
Absolutely. One thing with fear, I think fear comes from the point of uncertainty and unknown. And then when you're a small business owner, or a business owner that when the fear starts to come, or fear's in the water, you start thinking of human nature starts thinking of everything that can go wrong instead of what can go right. Some of the things that my business partner and I have in mind, it's all a mindset. Anything you look at is a mindset. You could look at half empty, half full. And one of the fortunate things is we get to choose the mindset. Another thing that we have learned in our experience, my business partner and I, is that, hey, let's not let a good recession go to waste. There's opportunity. There's an opportunity in any market. Let's be the first to find it, and let's be the first to capitalize it. But a lot of that goes with just, not pushing the panic button and controlling what you can control. Have your mindset like, hey, let's be the first to figure this out, and let's be the ones that are on the forefront instead of the ones that are playing catch up.
Crystal, it's tweetable. Let's not let a good recession go to waste.
And I think that's really how Frank looks at business, even when there's not a recession. Because I remember when Victoria, my friend that told me about Frank, when she went to Frank, she said, I want something that's going to build wealth for me. I'm not going to be there long. I don't need it to be what I want long term, but I want it to be something that's going to build wealth. And he found the market. He found the little hub of a market in Mesa. He was like, I will say, you brought her far from all of her friends, but she built a ton of wealth in 4 years and just bought a brand new home. So what do you think it is that makes you think about the opportunity differently than other people that might get lost in the fact when things kind of change abruptly?
I think it's attributed to a few things. One thing is, one is, I mentioned, the mindset, and I think two is the people that you surround yourself with. You've met Kevin, and my business partner Kevin, and there's not a panic bone in his body. So when something comes up like this, like, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna how do we figure this out? Like, what should we do? And then we just start looking at all of the baseline items, and when you look at it and you get your mindset right, it's very pretty simple. You just take it back to basics. Hey, one of the things about our business, we're in the relationship business. And what we said, with our blog, kind of the background on our blog, it's about you. It's never about us. And one of the things is we want to be true partners in our community. And one of the things that we did, the first thing we did is that, what? Why don't we just call all of our past and existing clients and ask them how they're doing, and if there's anything that we can help them with, any of the resources that we can help them with.
This is so unique. I think, like, when you're talking about your community earlier, where the genuine goal is to create community first. First of all, it's fascinating, and I'm curious how you do that in a market that I think tends to maybe has a reputation for being maybe a little more pushy and sales oriented and revenue oriented. What do you do to keep that attitude? Because even the way you're talking about the reaction here is very much, let's not call and see, who's thinking of buying during the recession. It's just like actually using this as a time to check in on people. So how do you overcome the natural desire to sell and close, and just show up with that care and concern for your customers?
Like I said, again, it's just the mindset. When you come from a place of good, you're always gonna be rewarded, and that's one of the things. Like, if you look out for others first, your business plan is going to go tenfold. One of the things that we've always done with our current buyers, and I'm sure Chris can attest to that, we look at, we track a lot of metrics, say cost per lead and this and that, but the metric that you cannot ever track, or you cannot ever, is the personal engagement, and did this person think I was sincere, and did I do a good job by them? And that to me, when you can do that, and you're looking at it from a point of not what's in it for me, what's in it for the other client, each one of your clients is going to be a 10x client. And what I mean by that is they're going to refer you to at least 10 friends and family. And when you get to that point where you can sit back and you just have referral business, that's the easiest business you can ever generate. But it's so hard to get to that point. And especially like in a sales driven business, and it's a lot of it's a me first. Everybody reads the books, and all of the different motivational speakers. But one of the things that I think is missing is slow down, stop, and to be successful, listen.
So what did you hear when you talked to them? What did your customers say?
It was all over the place. Hey, where can I get toilet paper, Frank? You know what? We have some here. We manage some VRBOs. We can send some. We can bring some over today. And one of the things with our blog, we have a lot of people on our blog.
You stole toilet paper out of VRBOs to take to your clients?
We manage VRBOs, so we have a stock of yeah. We're not. So and then awesome.
So you actually delivered TP though to some of your clients.
Yeah. Some clients needed. Hey, we needed some food. Hey, how can we get boxes of food? There's some things that we're not able. So a lot of it was just, Frank, what do you think is going to happen? Like, do you think we should sell now? Do you think, a lot of people start looking. I said, you know what, let's not push the panic button yet, and then you just reaffirm them like, hey, the recession from 10 years ago was a lot different because the housing market caused the recession. This recession is a little bit different. It's a global pandemic. The government, what was great about the last recession is the government has a history of what just recently happened, and they're going to be quick to react as opposed to wait and see. So that's one of the things. Just trying to let them know. And then one of the other things was, Frank, how should we sell our house? I said, well, let's look at it. Do you plan on leaving? Where would you go? The rental rates are high right now. I said, one of the things about this real estate market, there's only 4 ways to buy a house. It's cash, it's FHA, it's conventional, and it's VA. Every single one of those programs, you have to have physical cash to purchase the property. So there's not going to be a mass dump of properties. If anything, what we're seeing is prices may stabilize and it become more of a normal market, but we're not anticipating any huge massive equity losses.
I love it. I think there's something about I remember Joe Polish was talking once about the value of, he's like, think about how much people learn in the world from salespeople. Because, a lot of people are frustrated with people who sell. And I think we're breaking down what it really means to have sales flowing to you, which I think is what you're teaching our audience. The value of you calming and teaching your customer. I mean, I think the value of sending them toilet paper is clearly of more urgent and necessity. But the fact that you're having these conversations with them, and if I go from this emotionally strong place to a place of calm, I'm like, oh yeah, it just deepens that relationship with you even more. And who's to say what type of future equity you've created in your business because of this strategy? It's beautiful. Go for it, Crystal.
I was just so excited because I was going to say, the minute the house next door to me went on sale, I already knew I'm thinking of reaching out to Frank next year, but I was like, I'm just going to reach out and see if he can tell me what they end up selling for once it sells, because I was curious. And I'll tell you, Frank was like, sure, I'm happy to do that for you. No problem. And then I'm also going to run an evaluation on your home, so you have an idea for next year. No pressure about right now, but like the idea of seeing the evaluation now, I was like, maybe I don't have to wait. Maybe this would be a good time. And I thought he was doing it for care for me. And because of that, it's a great sales tactic, because you are giving me a full service of like, here's a full look at where it is now. You either use it next year to kind of compare, or you kind of can use it now if you want.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think that's such a missed opportunity as far as the sales profession is going. The sales profession is always, I say it all the time, is, hey, tomorrow's the first day of the month and you start at zero. You might have hit a grand slam last month, but you start at zero. But I think I think the mindset of the sales profession is wrong, because it's so right now. It's so right now. The metrics are always measured. Hey, what you do this week? What you do this week? How many ups do you got? If you're in the car business, how many ups do you got? How many houses do you got? How many, what's your pipeline look like right now? But like, no one ever asks the question, hey, what's your pipeline going to look like in 5 years from now? What's your pipeline going to look like in 10 years from now? Are you building a transaction, or are you building a business? And I think when you look at it from that standpoint, you can be transactional, or you can build a brand. And I think when you start focusing on building a brand, you're putting yourself in a position of winning over time.
I love it. So, Crystal, let me ask you this question. So when you're ready to buy your next home, how are you going to go about the process of deciding which realtor you're going to use?
It's already decided. I mean, I've told Frank when he did such a great job last time that I won't ever look. I could probably meet a real estate agent, start dating them, and Frank would still be my real estate agent.
Yes. And obviously, this is a tongue-in-cheek question, because what has happened is you literally have created a monopoly, and it's a legal monopoly. Mm-hmm. But in Crystal's mind, she would think of no other realtor except calling you.
I'll tell you, like most realtors, they hand you the keys and they're out. I had a situation with the builder. They messed up on one or two things and I was struggling, and I'd already got the keys. I'm already moved in. I went to Frank just for advice. He handled it. He called the builder himself. He got everything fixed for me. I couldn't even believe it. My mom was like, that's a good realtor. Like, I've never seen a realtor like that. But I think you do take service to a next level. I should have thought when I was starting to run out of paper towels to go, now that I know you're in that business too. But I mean, it's just, I think it makes it so hard to ever think of using another realtor.
And I think that's one thing with business. I read a book years ago, and in the book, the sales book, motivational book. And one of the things in the book it touched upon was, in any consumer's mind, it's like a bookshelf. You could only hold one spot in that bookshelf. So think of somebody, hey, where you want to go get a car wash. Hey, I want to go, this is the place where I go get a car wash. Hey, who's the guy called? Who's my electrician? Who's my dry cleaner? And that resonated so much with me, is like, how do I get to be in my customer's mindset that, hey, that's Frank, the realtor. That's the guy that's going to sell our house and our family's home. And one of the things that I think today so more in business, and especially in sales, is customer service is so non-existent. And I think culturally it's non-existent. Hey, you gotta think about when you're doing a marketing video. Hey, I gotta get it 25 to 30 seconds or less, or else my show time's going to start dropping off. And I think it's instant gratification. And I think with customer service being so non-existent, when you provide average or above customer service, it's just so noticeable. I'll give you an example. Yeah. I took my daughter the other day. She wanted to go to Dutch Brothers, And you walk in, everybody's so happy to see you. Hey, how's your day going today? And they're just complimenting you. Like, people don't ever remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I think that's so important. So important.
So I have a question for you, because it seems like, this is like the Frank I know and love, but what have been some of the changes you've made when you're showing houses or when you're having to sell houses in this environment? Have you had to make any adaptations to how you do that?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a ton, so we represent both buyers and sellers. So, one of the things on the buyer side is what we do with our buyers is we let them know is, hey, a lot of it is comfort level, how comfortable they are. One of the things that we try to limit is their exposure and the clients, the buyer's exposure and the exposure they're bringing to the property. So one of the things that we implemented with our buyers is we have I have pocket hand sanitizer. So every house we get to, we'll hand sanitize our hands. When we leave the house, we'll hand sanitize our hands. Another thing is we're asking that it's just only adults, no children. And if you have to bring your children, hey, we'll go in and view the home with the husband, and then we'll come back and we can view the home with the wife while one of them's watching the kids in the car. One of the things that we did that is I want to make the seller aware that, hey, we understand a lot of children look with their hands. And we don't want for you to be, having you concerned that, hey, you're going to have 2 or 3 children in here just touching everything in fact. So, that's one of the things. Gloves and shoe booties we've implemented as well. And again, it's towards the consumer's level of comfort. We're not worried about it. We have some come say, hey, will you wear a mask? Absolutely. Absolutely we'll wear a mask.
Love it.
On the seller side, one of the things that we do is, one of the things we do with our clients, we're full service. So we will schedule all the appointments for every showing that goes on our seller's house. So we're asking our sellers one is we will advertise, we will market the property. Hey, no young children come in the house. We can provide you shoes, booties, and gloves. If you need be, we can wipe down the house once you're done. What we're asking when we show the home is to have all of the lights on, all of the doors open in every one of the rooms, the closets open, maybe a couple of the cupboards open, and so the only doors that they will have to touch is the front door, the rear door, and maybe the garage entry door. So we're really trying to minimize the exposure and then another thing that we're doing too is we're limiting showings between just the certain strong showing times. So like, hey, on Saturday and Sundays the hot times are probably between 9 and 3. So we're saying, hey, the home is available between 9 and 3. We're asking the homeowners, hey, we can have it vacated between 9 and 3. We can maximize our showings there, and then we could come in one time and sanitize the home at once.
They don't have very many places to go where they feel safe, right? So.
Yeah, that for one, and then two, it's just so hot. The market's starting to get real hot, and you can't go before. Hey, we could go watch a movie for a couple hours. Well, we don't have that option. Restaurant, you don't have that option. We can't go to a restaurant. A lot of the daycares, a lot of the parents are, so there's a lot of different challenges. So I think, uniquely it's working all together as a whole, whether it be, the showing agent that's trying to show the home, whether it be the buyer's agent if we're showing the home, and then the client as well. And then letting the consumer know, the seller know, like, hey, we have your best interest in mind as well. We understand your concern and we hear you. We hear you. So a lot of it is up to the consumer. But when you show them that you're proactive, it's a win-win.
Well, I think it's awesome. I think those are. I don't know how many of our listeners are in real estate. Obviously, those are great tactical ideas for real estate. But what I hope our listeners are picking up out of this is innovation born out of understanding a customer and responding to a customer's needs. Mm-hmm. And really, I wasn't expecting this, Frank. Crystal did speak very highly of you, but I wasn't expecting just the example that you were going to create for everybody today about really serving clients and the impact that can have on the business. I think that's a pattern that we've seen. In fact, all of customer lifecycle marketing is about, which is a framework that we teach. It's all about getting on the other side of the table with your customer and imagining the experience that you're taking them through to make sure that you're delivering value along the way. And you're just you're a walking, breathing version of that. And it's awesome. I wanted to share one quick thought. I think we're getting a little bit short on time, but I wanted to make sure to put this in because it is relevant both to the industry and the topic. And that is that my wife and I we're in our 11th home right now. We've basically transients for a long time. Every couple of years we would move. It took us until our ninth time that we bought a home that we had a realtor who actually started to follow up with us. I've never actually had a mortgage professional follow up after the one deal. Everything was transactional. And you said earlier 10x, and what you were referring to, Frank, was that they're going to refer 10 of their friends. And what was interesting is that we literally, the first realtor that helped us to buy our very first home literally lost 10 deals because of one simple thing. He moved on. And he didn't treat us like, it wasn't and it wasn't even so much that I don't actually remember who it was, but it wasn't that I had a problem with him. It wasn't that I was frustrated with his customer service or blah, 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 blah. It was just simply when it came time to decide again, just like I asked Crystal earlier, I had to decide. And I had to think, well, who was that? Where's their contact? And I don't really know. So then I'm going to go ask another friend. So I just think, I hope that our listeners are hearing this loud and clear, and many of our customers and listeners are already in this mindset and they recognize it. But, thank you, Frank.
I think sales and lead generation is there's so many, if you Google it, there's so many different ways and so many different forms. But I think when you simplify it, your lead generation is already in the sphere of influence that you've already know, or the people that you've already contacted with. That's the easiest way to go get it. It doesn't cost you anything to pick up the phone. Everybody's always looking at new business, but hey, your new business lies within your old business. It's right there. It's right there. And if you're missing that opportunity to service and to capitalize on the current or old business, you're going to miss out on a ton of new business. Because that's the easiest business to get is with and the door's already broke. The door's already down. The barriers are down. They're already there for the people that you've already worked with. They want to hear from you. They want to talk with you. Hey, which question? Hey, what can I do for you? And I think that, I think a lot of the big picture in business is bigger, faster, stronger, and you. But a lot of times you forget to look what's in the rearview mirror, and a lot of the solutions are in your rearview mirror with the people you've already worked with or clients that you've already made that relationship with.
Hey, by the way, Frank, do you have a system for asking for referrals?
Yeah, it starts when I first meet you. When I met Crystal and everybody that they referred me. I worked with her sister. I worked with her best friend. I've met with her parents. One of the things when we first start off, I said my goal is to earn a 5-star review from you at the end of this. I've been fortunate enough I have about 140 5-star reviews on my Zillow platform. My goal is to earn a 5-star review from you. So at any time through this transaction, if I am not providing 5-star service, please let me know and I will correct it immediately. So I set the tone up front. At the end, when the transaction's done, I'll ask them for the review and I'll ask, I hope I earned a 5-star review. And if I did, can you please tell all your friends and family about me, because my business is based on referrals and your referral will mean the most to me. And so I think,
Scott, when you say that though, you mean like a system? It's still Frank. I think a company like Keap could really help Frank. Frank, we could save you so much time.
There.
I could
go
tell.
Ahead, Crystal. Lay into Frank.
You.
Frank, you can even do better. And by the way, I think the structure of what you're talking about is brilliant. I wonder if there are even more systematic things that you can do, because while that question is on people's mind immediately, they're definitely, as time passes, your customers are undoubtedly just, the freshness of your conversations with them start to wear. So if you can have a system in place that is constantly going back to those raving fans and just reminding them that you're there, and explicitly asking for that.
I wonder all the time how he does it, honestly, because I text him. I don't have a deal right now with Frank. We're not selling my house. He texts me in 2 hours. So I'm like always thinking, Frank, I'm not going to hard sell you here, but I'm just saying, I think about that often. Like, how is he doing this all by himself? But it is amazing. And you already have the structure built into what you do. So I think you're just so cool that you're so available to all your clients.
One of the things that too is, like I said before, is I think sales, and I've always looked at sales as a relationship business, no matter what you're selling. And one of the things that we do is, we have a weekly newsletter, and the newsletter is just to give information. And it never talks about us. It's all about just what's going on in our community and what's going on. But one of the things that's important to Kevin and I is, and we have, through our newsletter and interaction, is we have a lot of different events throughout the year to get our clients, future, past, and present clients engaged. Every year I dress up as Santa Claus. We have a toy drive, but with our toy drive, We also have, pictures with Santa Claus. We have a hot chocolate stand. So we have that on Christmas, Thanksgiving. We hand out about 300. We have 300 pies from Costco.
That's my favorite.
Frank, you are too much, dude. You dress up as Santa?
Oh man,
he like texts, when are you coming to pick up your pie? And he waits there to say, hey, how are you? Here's your pie. Happy Thanksgiving. I mean, he definitely has ways to make sure he's staying engaged with his clients.
Yeah, we have a hot dog cart, so we'll do hot dog carts in your parks. We do a lot of different things. We do an annual cornhole tournament every year. All the proceeds benefit the Boys and Girls Club. We raise about $20,000 a year every year on our cornhole tournament. But what's great is it brings everybody to our office. We get to have a good time, and like I said, is no one will ever remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And it's amazing. Like, hey, you're doing the cornhole tournament this year. Hey, you're gonna be hey, we're looking forward to our pie this year. So like it becomes, we're like, hey, these are part of their every year rituals, and that is such a compliment when like people look forward to the events that you're having, and then the relationships you build. Like we don't look at them as clients. We look at them as family and friends.
Well, Frank, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think our listeners just got educated on what it's like to really serve and create a business. I think your adaptations born out of customer service were awesome and inspiring, and we look forward to hearing how your business continues this year and maybe even more excitingly 5 years down the road.
Awesome. We appreciate the opportunity, guys, and thanks again.
Frank. I was just going to say, Frank, where can they find you?
You can find us on our Instagram at Gilbert Now, and then on Facebook, Gilbert Now. On my personal is at Realtor Frank G on Instagram, and Frank Gerola on Facebook.
All right, awesome. Well, Crystal, we just need a little moment from our sponsors. So for our unsponsored sponsorship on this episode of Small Biz Buzz, this episode is brought to you by Eric and Jeanette Sparrow, founders, co-founders, and husband and wife of Milk House Candles in Iowa.
Candles smell so good.
Well, it's not just the smell, Crystal. It's also the fact that they ditched traditional paraffin. So they're sitting in the middle of Iowa, right? And I don't know if you've ever driven through Iowa. I have. And it is literally basically all soybeans. Well, I think there's corn there too. And here they are looking around and they're saying, well, actually what happened is their brief story, which you can find on our website. We'll put a link in the show notes, but their brief story is they're newlyweds. They're making candles in their very first little house. And they start to take him in to, I think he was a teacher or something. He starts taking them in and he's like, in 15 minutes, I would sell 20 candles, and all the candles were gone. And have this envelope of cash. And they looked at each other and they were like, maybe we could actually create a business out of this. And so he decides to quit his job, much to the dismay of everybody who says he's absolutely insane. And they go out and they're like, look, we can improve on candles. So they ditch paraffin wax, which has a bunch of carcinogens in it. Apparently, I didn't know that. And they go with local grown soy. So they have soy wax, and they build this booming, business. They take this warehouse that used to employ 100 people that was shut down. They fire it back up. They start bringing in technology. They brought in, automation for their candles making. They brought in Infusionsoft for automating their customer experience, and started to build this thriving business. And, they've got a massive team now and are just doing awesome stuff. So thank you, Milk House Candles, for sponsoring, but not sponsoring this episode. I guess sponsoring, but not paying for, right, Crystal?
What we're actually trying to say is you're just a business doing really cool things, and we wanted to shout you out without requiring you to pay us, right?
I don't even think Eric and Janet know we're saying this. We'll have to send them a link. Somebody send them a link.
Yeah.
Thanks, Crystal, Frank, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. We're going to call this a wrap for this episode of Small Biz Buzz.
Thanks for listening to Small Biz Buzz. Please take a second to subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star rating. It helps keep the show going. And if you need a hand with growing your small business, head over to Keap.com. That's Keap.com and get started. More business, less work. That's Keap.